thanks everyone for joining today. Let's get into it. We are at Collide Virtual, Collide at the Mill Virtual. We have Sara Hamidovic from Environmental Engineering, today, and we get to hear all about her business and her entrepreneurial story. So that's gonna be really cool. And we'll get into it here. I'm gonna share my screen and do a slideshow of a few, some information about the mill and what we're up to, and then some slides of Sara's work, and we get to see what they're always up to, or what they're doing. And then we'll open up to any audience questions, and then we'll finish out with the Collide quick quiz, which is always fun. So here we go. I'm gonna try to share my screen in our PowerPoint right here. Oh, that's not quite right. Sorry, guys. It's this one. All right, here we go. Can give me a thumbs up if you can see my share screen. Great. So here we have Sara, Collide at the Mill from Environmental Engineering. So what is the mill? The mill is a center for co-working and entrepreneurship and community. And our mission is to launch and accelerate high potential companies in a beautifully renovated historic building with lots of desks, natural lighting, a brand new printer we're about to get, and so much more. Thanks to our sponsors, as always, the City of Bloomington, IU, and Cook, and especially to a German American who's always into sponsoring Collide. And usually they provide our lunch, but virtually we're on our own today. But thanks to German American. And so yeah, the Collide Online is a little bit different, but still just as fun. Next month we'll have Torlando Hakes. He's the founder of Color Theory, is a local business in town, and he's also kind of a business coach and consultant. So we'll get to hear what he's up to next month on August 20th. I think it's actually cut off on my screen, but I think August 20th is the date. It's the third Thursday, which is when Collide always happens, third Thursday. And so, yeah, I think we're going to jump into the slideshow. The next slideshow is from Sara, and we're going to hear her story starting from some action in the military to college, some work at IU, and working with her dad at the business, and then making her own business and combining the two. And we'll just hear it from her. So let's jump into it. I'm gonna jump into that slide, and Sara, you can take it away. So here's, why didn't that work? There we go. So there's, Sara, tell us about what's happening here.
All right, thanks, Sam. So like you said, my name's Sara Hamidovic. I'm the president, owner, founder of Environmental Engineering, which is a local Bloomington-based environmental consulting company. And so a little bit about me and how I got where I am. I'm Bloomington born and bred. Grew up here, went to Bloomington North, and after high school, I went and got accepted to the United States Military Academy at West Point, and did that for 4 years. It was a lot of fun. It was sometimes fun. It was mostly not fun, but I made it through, which is great. And after I graduated West Point, I was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Army. So when you become a lieutenant, you get to the goal once you graduate West Point is to get a platoon. And so I got orders for a unit that was a combat engineer battalion, combat mechanized, which was odd because at the time, women weren't allowed to be in that type of unit. And so I was very confused and a little bit scared that I wasn't going to get a platoon, because you go through 4 years of enjoyment at West Point, and you really want to do what you trained to do, and that's be a platoon leader. I wanted to lead troops. And so I came down on orders to go to Germany. And so I was stationed in Bamberg, Germany, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous town. If you've never been, I highly recommend you go. But I went there and they told me that I was going to have a staff job, which is pretty much the worst thing you can hear when you're an officer in the Army, because I really wanted to lead troops. And so I basically petitioned my chain of command to get a platoon. And they said, well, if you can prove yourself, if you can prove that you can do it, you'll get a platoon. And so I spent 5 months trying to prove everything to everyone. And I ended up getting a platoon, and then my platoon earned a combat mission in Iraq, which this picture here is myself and my driver and my gunner. The one in the middle is Booth. Unfortunately, he is deceased. But those are my guys that I spent the year with in Iraq, and that's my truck back there. And this picture was taken in Al-Assad in Iraq. So I did the officer thing for a little over 5 years. Then I was medically discharged because I had a back injury that wouldn't heal correctly. And so the Army retired me. And when that happened, I came back to Bloomington. And so I spent time in the military we did route clearance. So our battalion was tasked with digging up roadside bombs for the year that we were there. And my platoon in particular, we had gun trucks. And so we were providing the security for the platoons that were digging up the bombs. And we did convoy security. And so we did about 10,000 miles on the roads in Iraq during the time that we were there. Got out of the military, was kind of lost, didn't know what I wanted to do with myself when I grow up. And so came back home to Bloomington, interviewed around a little bit, didn't really find anything that made any sense for me. And so then one day a kind of light bulb went off, and I said, Dad, why don't I come work for you? Because my dad owned Fields Environmental, which was a Bloomington-based consulting company. My major from West Point's in environmental engineering. And so I don't know why it never occurred to me to work for my dad, but one day I decided, hey, I should work for my dad. And so we did that for 4 years. And what Fields Environmental was traditional soil groundwater investigation and remediation. And so basically looking for dirty soil, dirty water, trying to figure out how to make it clean, a lot of digging, yellow iron excavation equipment, stuff like that. So that's what Fields Environmental did, overseeing jobs like that. And so, like I said, Dad and I made it 4 years together, and then we decided it was probably smart that we part ways. It was just difficult working with family. He and I both have very big, strong personalities. I think we're a little bit too much alike at some level. And so I branched off and I started Vet Environmental, which was, it wasn't really designed this way, but in hindsight, it was brilliant. I wish I could claim it as a thought process that I actually had, but when I left working for him, I said, I'm not going to step on your toes. I'm not going to do what you do. So I'm going to do something else in the environmental field. And so Vet was built to be an industrial and commercial compliance house. And so basically what we did is we would help businesses like quarries and auto salvage facilities, different types of factory operations comply with the challenging environmental and safety regulations. And that took off and grew really well. And so right now we are basically, our northern border of where we work is Chicago. To the south, we've got clients all the way down in Mobile, Alabama. To the east, we span to Philadelphia and Roanoke, Virginia. And to the west, we're all the way out in Denver. And so from 2013 until now, we've grown quite a bit and are doing really well. Most of those clients are compliance clients. Most of our other types of work are local.
Are there a lot of other similar companies to you? That's quite a reach, and it seems like you'd have to be there on site to do that sort of work.
We do. What we do is kind of special, and I think how we do it is also very special, especially working with auto recycling facilities. These people, they don't know the stuff, and they get to know it, but initially they're not very savvy about environmental and safety regulations. And so what we do is we try and go in and train them and help them get to where they can kind of manage their business and their compliance on their own. And so there aren't a lot of other companies like ours in the United States. And so people will pay to have us come out and help take care of them.
Cool. So you really found your niche.
We did. We found a niche. My grandmother used to call me the junkyard queen, but we don't say the word junkyard anymore. We say automotive recycling facility because we're trying to overcome the stigma. Cool. So, yes.
Automotive recycling facility. I'll write that down.
There you go. That's right.
Cool. So you ended up working with your dad, but then you were different than your dad. You weren't stepping on your toes, and then that ended up working really well.
It did. And so in, what year was it? About mid 2017, he approached me and he said, "Hey, would you be interested in buying my company? I'm ready to retire." And so I said, "Wow, give me a minute to think about that." And I thought about it, and Fields is my maiden name. The company has Fields in the title, so I was like, "Yeah, that's going to have to be mine. I'm going to have to do that." And so January 1st of 2018, I bought Fields Environmental from my dad, and we combined Vet and Fields together. So we're operating both companies under the Vet flag, which is really cool because when, like I said, he did services that we didn't do and vice versa. And so I always do this little gesture that it just kind of came back together seamlessly. And so now we're basically a full service environmental consulting company. We offer most all of the services that people would need. So that worked out well. Kind of part and parcel of that whole thing, in 2016, my dad and I bought the historic Hensonburg School, which is on West Fountain Drive, used to be Vernal. Next slide, yep. So that's my baby. This picture, I believe, was taken in the 1940s. I'm not exactly sure, but the school was built in 1930. I recently found out that the school was actually built to service the kids of the folks that worked at the local quarries, especially the ones up here on the northwest side. So Hensonburg, Indiana, the school was the center of Hensonburg, and it was a very poor community. It's widely documented as being the poorest part of Bloomington. And so we bought this school, and this is what we're doing to it now.
Sorry.
Oh, back one.
Pushing other buttons.
There it is. So yes, it was in rough shape, but the bones are good. And so we've been pouring a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and finances into it. But it's a lovely, lovely space. Those windows are something to behold. There's a little dude there on the front steps. That's my wingman, Otis, my 12-year-old son. But yeah, the building is great. It's our corporate headquarters, and it's really nice because, like you said, new, fresh space in a historic building, lots of room, lots of light, and it's just a very light, airy, enjoyable place to work. So we're really proud to be stewarding this building on into the future.
Cool. Yeah, I've actually ridden bike and stuff up there, and I would looking through the windows to look at that building. And, wow, that'd make a cool food hall restaurant thing, or some sort of lots of little businesses in there or something.
Sure.
A couple of years ago, and I thought someone should buy this and do something. So that's I think that's cool that you got that building. It looked like
I'm really proud of it.
Went down and opened up to maybe a cafeteria sort of thing.
It did, but so the cafeteria for the school was in the basement. And it's really interesting because there's a lot of stories about kids that came to school here that didn't have coats and they didn't have food. And so a lot of the kids have come back, and now they're in their 50s and 60s, or I think most of them are in their 60s or older. But they say that, we didn't have food at home. And so when I went to the school, that's where I got to eat. And so for a lot of these kids, it was like their happy place, which makes me happy.
Cool.
So great building.
Did you have to do anything with the ground? Was there contamination there?
No sign of any contamination here. No record of anything that would have contaminated it. The only thing is that they had an outhouse. Originally, there was no indoor plumbing, and there still is no plumbing in the main part of the building. There's only plumbing in the addition on the back. So that's the only thing I know that could be a little bit gross is the former outhouse area.
And what about asbestos?
We did have asbestos. We had an asbestos abatement. We had a lead paint abatement. Nothing significant, but we did absolutely have some in there, and those are both services we provide. And so when we bought it, we were able to identify that and get it taken care of right away.
Cool.
Yep.
Let's see, what's our next slide here?
So yeah, I think the next slide is kind of one of the big projects we've been working on. So I think most people are probably familiar with the Griffin water treatment plant. Another super cool historic building in Bloomington that unfortunately was beyond repair. This structure was built in the mid-1920s, and it served as the water treatment plant that did provide Bloomington drinking water for a long time until Griffin became an inadequate supply of water, and that's when we began transitioning to Monroe. But basically what happened here is in the mid 1990s, the plant was taken offline and vandals and thieves broke into the building and did a just immense amount of damage to the building. There were a lot of environmental conditions in the building that needed to be rectified to basically prepare for demolition. And the city made a good run at trying to save the building, but it was too much. And so we started working here in
is that kind of back along like where the dam of Griffey is?
Yes.
Kind of tucked up there.
Yep. So it's on North Dunn Street on the opposite side of Dunn from where the dam is. That's correct. And so, like I said, they made a run at trying to keep it. There was just too much going on. There was some structural stuff that was probably insurmountable. And so we started working there in 2017, just getting it ready for demolition. And then on May 4th of this year, we began the actual demolition, so that the first picture there on the top was probably about May 7th or so. And then the bottom picture there was taken on May 26th. And so we spent 3.5 pretty intense weeks out there, getting all of the building down, segregating all of the different materials that came out of the building, because some of it had to go to certain landfills based on what it was. But it was an amazing project for us, and we're very, very proud of the way the finished product looks. Basically what's going to end up being there is just that big, beautiful field. The city bought some really nice prairie seed mix, and so there's going to be great grasses and some flowering things that come up there. And that site is being preserved as a place that in an emergency, if we ever need to, a packaged water treatment plant can be set there for temporary drinking water purposes in Bloomington. So that's kind of our big project we've been working on here recently.
I'm always curious about Griffey, and I don't know exactly what you can speak about or not, but like, what's the deal? Isn't it like kind of contaminated by RCA, or like that's the rumor, or like is the water like, and you're not supposed to swim in there because will you turn green, or what's?
I don't know anything about that. I don't know of any connections between Griffey and RCA. We've sampled sediment there. To my knowledge, there are no contamination issues there.
Oh, do you know why you're not supposed to swim in it?
I don't know. I recall my parents, so my parents both went to IU in the 80s. They said that I think there was someone that drowned. And so it may be more of a safety thing. I don't know of a contamination thing. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I have no knowledge of it.
Okay.
I know it's very weedy, and I know that aquatic weeds can be very dangerous to swim in. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
Cool. So cool big project. Next up, here's this project.
Yeah, so this photo I threw up here, one of the things that I just wanted to, especially with what you guys do with startups and entrepreneurs, one of the things that we see very commonly is that when people are growing their company and trying to acquire real estate, one of the things that's often overlooked is the environmental assessments that are required to transact commercial and industrial real estate. And so what those are called are phase 1 and phase 2 environmental site assessments. So the phase 1 is the first thing that you do, and it's a due diligence step that needs to be taken if there will be money loaned on these commercial industrial properties. And what we see happening a lot is people aren't aware that this is a requirement, and so they don't budget the time and money needed to get those assessments done. And so oftentimes the environmental piece can be an obstacle to closing because there wasn't enough time or money budgeted for that step to be taken. And so kind of as a public service announcement, if you're going to buy commercial or industrial real estate, ensure that you budget the amount of time and money you need to do those investigations, because they are crucial. And that's how you protect yourself from ongoing liability. So for instance, if you bought a property that has environmental conditions there and you didn't do your phase 1 and or phase 2 site assessments or investigations, you could be held financially liable for that because you didn't take the steps you needed to determine whether or not there was a problem. And so as you grow and look for commercial real estate, ensure that you budget time and resource for your environmental investigations.
And is that for like any and all commercial real estate, or is it specifically for more like the automotive recycling facility type things that are going to be storing stuff there long term?
It's definitely that. The big deal in industrial facilities absolutely need that, but other properties, there's a lot of contamination that can move in the subsurface. And so any commercial industrial property, especially if you're going to seek financing from a bank, you absolutely want to do that. Even if you are not going to seek financing to cover yourself and to make sure you're protecting yourself from ongoing liability, you want to do it anyway.
Okay, so industrial, commercial industrial.
Commercial and industrial, yep.
Okay, cool. Here's an exciting photo. Tell us about this.
Yes. So also a public service announcement. Like I mentioned, we do consulting with regard to mold, indoor air contamination, radon, asbestos, lead paint, all those sorts of things. This is a patch of mold we found at a project not too long ago. And we are seeing a definite uptick in the amount of mold that people are getting in their homes. And I think that goes hand in hand with a warmer, wetter climate. And we're getting to the time of year where we really the phone starts ringing off the hook for mold problems. And so the best way to prevent mold in your home is to control the humidity in your home. And so the EPA recommends keeping the humidity in your home less than 60%, and ideally around 50 or less. If there is no moisture in the air, the mold cannot grow unless you have a leak. And so controlling water in your home through making sure that you've got good maintenance on your plumbing, but then also making sure that your humidity is under control, running a dehumidifier, especially when it's very warm and humid, is a very important thing, because mold remediation is very costly, time consuming, often very difficult. And what we've seen is people will do a mitigation or remediation and then not get the humidity under control, and the mold just comes right back. And so a lot of people don't understand that just having humid air inside your home, keeping your windows open, can cause mold growth. So keeping the humidity under control and making sure that you're keeping that, like I said, around 50% will save you a lot of heartache in the future. And this building was really gross. So that's probably like 8 different kinds of mold growing in one little patch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit, we talked prior to this meeting, and you said you didn't really deal with living organism stuff, but you got mold there. But like,
true, mold is, you're right.
Transitioning into the COVID stuff, you haven't really dealt with any COVID, anything like that, right?
No, we don't do any kind of biohazard, medical, we don't do anything like that. Mainly because it's always kind of scared us and it's not really what we're good at, so we try and stick to our core competency. Mold is one that we do because it kind of goes at some level hand in hand with radon, and we do a lot with radon. It's something that we got into in Bloomington just because we're in zone 1, which is the highest risk zone for radon. And of all the nasty stuff we deal with in the environment, I think radon is probably the worst of all of it, just because it's something that's present in all of our homes, or a lot of our homes. And so it's something that can be hurting you while you're sleeping. It's something that can be doing damage to your kids. And so that's why we got into radon. And a lot, when you mitigate for radon, it's a ventilation thing, basically. And so mold and radon often go hand in hand for us. And so that's why we kind of got into both of those. As far as the COVID thing goes, I'm kind of proud of the way our company has handled this. I'm very proud of the way our company has handled the pandemic and going through all of this. We decided on Friday the 13th of March to send everyone home, which was early. And there's my team. We've actually had some turnover since then, but that was the team as of when we sent everyone home. But I just really wanted to make sure that all of our folks knew that we were committed to their safety and their health. And because it was so uncertain, we cut everybody loose, and everyone stayed home for about 2 months. but I'm very proud of the fact that not a single person was laid off. No one had a paycheck less than anything they were ever used to. Everyone worked 40-hour weeks. And we're on track to have the best year we've ever had, which is just a testament to how great of a team that I have. And so, yeah, some of the things that we've tried to do through the pandemic is, you know, we've tried to spread out our work and make sure that everyone has as much billable work as they can, but also using some of this time as an opportunity to give projects that always kind of get overlooked, whether they're overhead projects or things we're trying to do to make our company better, give those things some attention. And so I think our company's coming out of this far better than we were when we went in. Part of that, we applied for and were awarded the payroll protection, the PPP we got it from German American. They were amazing to work with. And at first when we applied for it, I almost felt a little bit guilty because I said, with the work that we have and what we're doing, I'm not sure that we even need this. And then when we got into it and things started going on, and with the big project that we had some weirdness inside our internal to our company. When I really got into the books, the PPP kept us going through this thing. And so we are super, super grateful that we were afforded that opportunity, because it kind of saved our butts here recently.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always here to. It's great to hear that German American helped you with that too.
Yeah, they were great.
They're friends of the
They
mill.
do all of our banking, and we love them.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's going to be kind of the flow of what we've thought. So back to you guys. Yeah, we're at 28 after, so kind of going to wrap things up here. See if anyone has any questions for Sarah. You can either, let's see, I'm going to unshare my screen, I think, and then let's see if you can either chat them or, whoops, I got to figure this out here, sorry. You can either chat them or chime in with your audio if you'd like to. If you have any questions, I'll leave it open for just a few minutes.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Gretchen?
Sarah, how do your customers find you? Do they know that they need an environmental engineer even, or how do they find you?
Well, I guess it depends on who the customer is and what they're after. A lot of times with the phase 1 and phase 2s, a bank will say you need this, and they will then probably Google it, I'm guessing. A lot of how our business, Fields was founded in 1998, and so we're in our 22nd year. It's always been word of mouth for us. We try and provide excellent service. We try and just go above and beyond for our clients and add value everywhere we go. And so honestly, what we've always done is just word of mouth. We're trying to have a more kind of focused and targeted marketing plan going forward, but we've always been so busy just because we do good work that we've never really needed to. So we're working on that. We're going to try and grow intentionally. So did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
I think it's pretty cool that you have such a wide network of clients all across the country with just word of mouth. It's pretty impressive.
It's great. I mean, that's a very tight-knit industry, the auto recycling industry. They all know each other and they talk, and word travels quickly. And we're going to Colorado for our first time here in a couple weeks, and we had 10 yards band together and say, we need you out here. And so they're flying us out to do consulting work for them, it's very flattering for sure.
Cool. Looks like it. Here I got a question from Bailey. I think you mentioned this area is particularly prone to radon.
Yes.
Can you speak to why that is?
It's a geology thing. So radon is a natural byproduct of the geology that we have here. And if you look at the map of where radon exists, especially in southern Indiana, it absolutely follows the limestone. And so down Monroe County, Lawrence County, Orange County, where all the big limestone quarry areas are, that's where the bad radon in this part of the world is. And so it's a breakdown product, and it trickles up through the soil. And what happens in homes when you have your HVAC running, when you have your air conditioning or your heat on, it actually pulls a vacuum on your house, so there's negative pressure on your house, and that brings the radon into your house through cracks in your foundation or other ways. It can come in through your water. And Bloomington is just really, really bad for radon. And it is the #2 leading cause of lung cancer, next to smoking. And so, like I said, that's the thing that we think is the biggest thing that we've got going in Bloomington environmentally, because just normal citizens are exposed to it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jen Pearl and I'm with the BEDC. It's really good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So, it's exciting to see, how you're growing as a business. What would you say the biggest opportunities and challenges are for you as you're moving forward? And how can the community best support a business like yours?
So the challenges for me, this may just be because I'm an engineer and I'm a turbo introvert and I struggle with interpersonal interaction. The biggest struggle for me has always been personnel. Finding people that are kind of like-minded. I'm a very passionate, very hard-charging person, and that's not for everyone. And we've struggled to find the right team. For me, one thing that has been amazingly helpful is hiring by panel. Because I used to be like, yeah, you sound great, I'll hire you, and it didn't work. So having a panel of people that I work with and trust helped me decide and gauge whether these people are right for us or not. That has been huge. So that's always been the biggest struggle for me. And I mean, I think that if Marilyn is on, and she's always helped me with this and just saying, I have this person, I think they'd be great for you. That's something that I always appreciate so much. And I've forgotten what the other part of your question was. I'm sorry.
The biggest opportunities moving forward.
Oh, so my company is unique in that we're woman-owned, obviously, but also I'm a service-disabled veteran, and we're also in a hub zone. And so the hub zone is Bloomington has a hub zone on its west side, and so it's historically underutilized business zone. And so because we're in the part of town that has been historically lower income, we theoretically get preferential treatment for bringing business and tax dollars to this part of town. We've never used any of those certifications because we've never needed to. We've always been so busy just doing what we do. But I think for our company, part of that growth and strategy that I mentioned earlier is to start trying to get into some government work using those set-asides. And so there are many, many people out there with the government looking to hire companies like mine. And we just need to find a way to put ourselves in touch with those people. Because it's a need. All these big projects need woman-owned companies. They need veteran-owned companies. They need hub zone companies. And so we need to scale in a way that we can then support projects like that. And so that's kind of what we're planning on doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cool. Anyone else have any questions? All right. It's 12:35. We can wrap things
I think
up.
Stacy might have one.
Oh, sure. Can you unmute yourself or type it in the chat? Stacy? I can see that Stacy's microphone is not muted, but I'm not hearing Stacy. Now I see Stacy. Stacy, are you trying to ask a question? Maybe just type it in the chat. Once we hear from Stacy, we'll take that as our last question, and then we'll wrap it up with the Collide quick quiz. Been working on some questions for that, and then we'll carry on with our days.
Oh,
there it is.
I see your question.
Yep,
you're asking about a grease trap program for local restaurants. I honestly have no experience with grease traps. I imagine it's something that we could do or help with. Because because I mean, we deal, especially with auto recyclers, we deal with all sorts of oils and fluids and grease and things of that nature. And so we have outlets and we know how to handle it and all that, those things, but I've never dealt with it with a restaurant. I do know that all that stuff needs to be handled appropriately because it's all regulated. Interestingly, all oil, regardless of if it's an animal source or a nut source or a petroleum distillate or anything like that, it's all regulated similarly. So motor oil and vegetable oil are all regulated because it's not a toxicity issue as much as it's a physical issue. So since water floats on since oil floats on the surface of water, it kills aquatic organisms. And so we could absolutely help with that. We just never have. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I used to be in the restaurant business myself, and yeah, the grease interceptor, grease trap stuff is tough to work around as a business, but I mean, it makes sense that we got to be cool about it. All right, cool. Well, I think let's wrap it up. Are you ready for the Collide Quick Quiz?
Is this for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'm ready.
So it's not a big deal. It's five rapid fire questions, and
okay, I'm scared.
I'll do blank or blank, and don't overthink it. They're just, some of them they're mostly just kind of silly.
Okay.
And just answer one or the other, or trick question. You can use whatever, you can have your other answer if you want to.
Okay.
But I struggled a little bit to come up with these questions, but I think I added a few here on the fly. So here we go. Before or after?
After.
Okay. Renovate or rebuild?
Ooh, renovate.
Wow. Sometimes you hear that that's like more expensive to do it that way.
Yeah, it absolutely is, but I'm not afraid of a challenge.
Cool. So those two kind of went together. Yeah, one more of the shovel or spade?
Shovel, they're bigger.
Yeah, are they different? I didn't even know if they're different. Here's a tough one. EPA or CDC?
Ooh, EPA, all day.
All right, and last one. Fungi or fun guy?
Fun guy.
That's what I thought. Great. Cool. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us today on Collide at the Mill virtually. And this will end up on YouTube, so you can share it and rewatch it and relive this bliss over and over again. So share it with folks if they want to. And hopefully, I still don't know if we have it on the books yet or not, but hopefully Collide will be back in real life at some point in the future. Hopefully, things will be back to normal in the future. But thanks again for joining us. And next month we have Torlando Hakes, likely virtually, but we'll see. And I think that's all about what we got to go. I'm rambling now, but thanks again for joining us, and let's tune out. Bye, Sarah.
Bye, thanks for having me.
Sarah from Vet Environmental Engineering, located here in Bloomington, Indiana. Bye, everyone.